There's a lot of crazy myths going around in Apex. Some are based on weird assumptions that are just spread around, and some are leftovers from things that used to work, but they're now patched out. I decided to go over 45 common Apex Legends myths and test whether they work or not. Let's dive into it. Does climbing while holstered let you climb higher? Running with your weapon holster does increase your movement speed, which in the laws of Apex would mean that you would climb faster and thus higher as well. For example, this ledge is unreachable if you try climbing it with a gun, but if you holster your weapon, you can reach it. The same logic would apply to, say, Wraith's face or Octane's stim. Does kicking when dropping off a height reduce fall stun? If you time the animation correctly, you used to be able to punch the ground right before you landed to reset your velocity and stop yourself from getting hit with the fall stun penalty. However, this was removed in a later patch and no longer works. This one is false. Does the care package, replicator, or lifeline package break Pathfinder's ultimate? We know that breaking line of sight would cut the ziplines in some cases, but in this particular case, the zipline remains. Do certain locations guarantee a golden weapon or any high tier loot on every map? So Olympus used to have a high level item spawn under the waterfall right above labs, but these were moved to these free pills all the way north of docks. These have a very high chance to spawn a golden item, but you just have to drop a few games in a row to learn that while you have good odds of finding a golden weapon there, it is far from guaranteed. Is your walking speed affected by what weapon that you're currently holding? This could be annoying to measure, but thankfully we have the CL show plus launch command that displays our velocity. Some quick testing shows that no, your walk speed is not affected by what gun you're walking with. Your walking velocity will always be 173.5 unless your gun is holstered, and then it is 199.5. Does Vantage's ultimate open doors? We know that the 3030, the L-Star, the Wingman, Longbow, Sentinel, and the Kraber open doors when you shoot the handles, but what about the new sniper rifle? It turns out it does. It's true. Does EVA 8 now fire 8 pellets instead of 9? That's actually not a myth, just a patch note. It previously used to fire 9 pellets in the shape of an 8, but what about now? The EVA 8 was reduced to 8 pellets, so how is it gonna paint an 8 shape? But it takes a second to test this out and see that they also changed the shape so it still fires in an 8-shaped pattern. Although I would argue that this pattern is not just a different shape, it is a lot stronger than the previous one. Can Rampart's cover block Caustic's gas? Rampart's tactical cover will block Caustic's gas if it cuts off the immediate line of sight between the gas source and the player. You can also place Rampart's covers in an almost airtight triangle shape to prevent any gas from his ultimate to seep in. You could also put up covers surrounding the Nox grenade to stop it from spreading and in that way contain it. Does Seer's tactical cancel Crypto's EMP? So silencing Crypto's drone won't actually accomplish anything, especially not if the EMP is charged. But what happens if Seer silences Crypto as he's maneuvering the drone and deploying an EMP? Absolutely nothing. Does Ash's arc snare go faster if you hold it before releasing? I've seen this one being thrown around a lot, and it's actually one of the reasons that we're making this video. Holding the tactical button will cause a change in the animation and will make it glow blue, but it only changes the animation. It doesn't go faster, and there is no benefit from holding it for longer. We can easily test this out, as when we're comparing footage where we release the snare at the same time, it hits the target at the same time as well. Also, if you guys would smash the like button for all of this information, that'd be really neat. Thank you so much. Can you see any other players when you enter the Void? The Void acts as a different realm, and anyone who enters the Void can see anyone else who is inside of it, such as 2 Wraith using the tactical around the same time. Someone entering a portal can also see Wraiths in the Void, and vice versa. Can Fuse stack mobile respawn beacons? Respawn beacons used to be listed as grenades in the code, but this was a temporary bug and was fixed. Fuse can no longer stack mobile rest beacons in his inventory. Though if you are worrying about stacking rest beacons, you've got bigger problems. Can you slide onto a jump pad to have no midair inaccuracy? So this used to work, but some people still act as if it's true. It has been fixed. Can dropping your armor stop you from taking damage from Crypto's EMP? I love this one because it's a leftover habit from back in the day when dropping your armor actually did stop Crypto's EMP from dealing damage to it. It was, however, fixed relatively quickly, but professionals and Predator players are still dropping their armors when the EMP hits them. Why? Is it because Predators and pros are stupid? It's not because they don't want to take damage on the shield. They know they'll still get their shields damaged, but because the Crypto doing the EMP won't get any Evo shield charge on the damage, and they will also not reveal the information on what type of armor that they have. It's also worth mentioning that you can still hot swap an armor into a def box to save it from being hit from an EMP, and it's also worth mentioning that the EMP won't affect any armors that haven't been interacted with in the last 20 seconds. Can Gibraltar's gun shield be recharged with a cell? Gibraltar's gun shield has a 9-second timer to recharge if fully broken. A lot of people think that you can pop a cell or a battery if just your gun shield breaks, or even if your armor breaks, and then it will by extension repair your gun shield, but after testing we can tell that this is false. Can you bounce abilities and ordinances off Octane's jump pad? Yes, this works. And it actually means that you're able to extend the range of your grenades by quite a bit. You can also use any time of thrown ability on the jump pad as well with the same results. Does starting a spray by aiming down sights and then switching to hipfire still keep the aim down sights accuracy for a few bullets? This used to be true and really accurate, but I can't figure out whether it still works. And after testing this for quite some time, I'm gonna err on the side of caution and say that no, this does no longer work. At the very least, if you compare it to how strong it used to be. Does the aim down sight movement speed vary per gun? Yes, it actually depends on your weapon class. Snipers make you move the slowest at a velocity of 60, then LMGs at 69, nice. Marksmen are 73, the assault rifle movement velocity sits at 86, SMGs and for whatever reason the Bokek have a velocity of 147, shotguns are 156 unless you're playing Maggie, in which case it's 173, and pistols are unaffected, so that's also 173. And yes, when I say pistols, that includes the Wingman and the Mozambique. This one was very easy to test, and yeah, it was true. Can you grapple a flyer? Yes. Does sliding and grappling as Pathfinder result in no mid-air inaccuracy? Just like we covered with the jump pads, this used to work, but it wasn't intentional and it was fixed. Are the Mozambique and EVA 8 full auto? I know it's actually really shocking, but just try holding down the shoot button and you'll notice that, yeah, they're full auto. Maybe just a little bit on the slow side if you don't have a bolt, and especially if you're using a double tap, though I will keep manually shooting myself because it just feels like you have more control. Can Mirage's decoys block melees? This was actually a shocker to me, but yes, if you're playing Mirage and you're taking a melee fight, it might be in your best interest to send out a decoy to absorb one of the enemy's punches. Let's talk about the Ravens appearing when Bloodhound uses their ultimate. I have heard so many conflicting theories about this one, like, oh, there's enemies in the area, or somebody died in that spot, but really nothing concrete. And the thing that makes the most sense is simply that the Ravens show up on the top of their passive, so steps or trails. We went in game and ran around with the ultimate, and lo and behold, every time we walked to where the Ravens were situated at, we'd find traces. Do legends run at different speeds? All of the legends have the same base velocity, and the movement mechanics work the same across the board. The reason people think some legends run slower or faster is because of a few factors. Firstly, the larger legends have very slow and sluggish hand animations, and secondly, they're pretty tall. The farther you are off the ground, the slower the ground seems to move beneath you, so you will feel like you move slower if compared to a shorter legend like Wraith. And thirdly, people just assume that they're slower because they're large, which isn't really cool, dude. Can you trap Wraith in their face? You actually can. Wraith can't interact with doors when she's in her face, so if you're inside of a building with doors and she wants to leave, you can simply close the doors to force her to wait out her tactical inside of the building with you. Do Thermites actually deal 25 less damage on 45 legends rather than the written 15? I tested this out and yeah, it's actually true. The reason for this is because the damage values from Thermites are whole numbers, and a Thermite does 3 damage by default, and if you reduce 4 by 15%, you can only round down to 3 damage, which is why you will take overall 25% less damage from a Thermite if you're a fortified legend. Does Revenant's tactical have the same trajectory and speed as an Arc Star? This was easy to test, and yes, the silence is a one-handed ability, which means you can throw both at the same time if you really want to confuse your enemies. Can care packages or replicators spawn in these areas where there's smaller openings in the map, such as the control center on Stormpoint or the TikTok building on Olympus? The answer is yes. Not only can Lifeline call in their packages there, but replicators and care packages can also automatically drop in here as well, as seen as this picture showing the PlayStation building on Olympus. Do some legends climb higher than others? I can see why you would think that, and it does make a lot of sense because the legends are so varied in height. And my testing felt a little bit inconclusive because yes, it seemed like the taller legends such as Gibraltar climbed higher up than a shorter legend like Wraith, but they only managed to do full climbs and grab onto ledges that were the same height, implying that while the view is different, the actual effective climbing height remains the same. Can you extend your climbing rate with a side input? Yes. While legends heights don't matter, you can still input a side strafe right before the end of your climb animation to give you a little bit of a boost and reach a tiny bit higher. You can also get a little bit of extra height by wiggling your view, so yeah, this is true. Can Lifeline pick up a golden knockdown shield mid-res and still have the Guardian Angel effect apply once the revive is finished? Yeah, it works. Do you run at different speeds depending on what guns you're holding? Do you run at different speeds depending on what guns you're holding? All guns are defaulted to a 260 velocity run speed, unless you're playing Mad Maggie, in which case your shotgun run speed is the same as holstered, which would be 299 velocity. Does crouching in front of a grenade with your gun shield as Gibraltar stop you and anyone behind you from taking damage? This took about a second to test, and yeah, it works. This also works for arc stars and some other explosions, but not Gibraltar's airstrike. Fun fact, blocking a grenade with your gun shield does not damage the shield itself. Does every finisher take the same amount of time? This is not true, and some people seem to believe that the finishers differ based on your legend, but it turns out that every single finisher has a different animation time. Here's a full chart showing you the finisher timings. Does heavy ammo slow you down more than other ammo types, or does any ammo type behave differently in particular? No, all ammos have the same amount of slow on hit, and there's a small window before the slowing effect would apply again, meaning that automatic weapons with a higher fire rate won't magically slow you down more than slower fire rate guns. This is a super old myth from when the game first came out that is false, but somehow continues to be regurgitated. Legends with fortified, such as Gibraltar, Caustic, or Newcastle, don't get affected by bullet slow, but those are the only exceptions. Does Crypto getting hit by Revenant Silence cancel EMP and take him out of the drone? So unlike Seer Silence, Revenant Silence does take Crypto out of the drone because it deals a little bit of damage, and damage takes Seer out of a drone. Now, as to whether it cancels the EMP or not, no. Silencing Crypto with Revenant Silence does not cancel the EMP. Does sliding off a surface cause no mid-air inaccuracy? This is the case with the jump pad and grapple all over again. It used to be true, but has been fixed. And let me just be a YouTuber for a second and ask you guys to hit the subscribe button. It is completely free, and so far 17.4% of you guys watching have taken a plunge. This channel has been growing like crazy lately, and I'd love to hit 200,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and your help would mean a lot. Thank you so much to the ones that have helped the growth so far. I really appreciate you. Is the R99 good? In what degree is the R99 good? It's hard to control. It has a lower raw damage per second than many of our SMGs, like the car, and it is a SMG in a mid to long range meta, which lost its barrel stabilizer. As we all know, the hipfire was also significantly nerfed this season, and it is worse than the hipfire in season 13 unless you have a level 3 laser sight. Does wearing the golden armor mean that your sentinel only needs one cell to charge up? Yes. Does the Mozambique get a tighter spread when you aim down sights? This was easy to test, and it is definitely true, and it's the only shotgun that does this by default, assuming you don't count the fact that the Peacekeeper has a choke on it. Can you bunny hop heal? So bunny hop healing is a very OG feature where players can start any type of heal when running, sliding, and then jumping, to then keeping that momentum by timing their jumps, usually by using their scroll wheels. This feature was removed from the game, but they seem to intentionally leave it in for Octane, who can still pull this off if he's using his stim. Do sniper scopes have aim assist? So any scopes from the 1x holo all the way to the 2 to 4x bruiser do have aim assist, including rotational aim assist, but any actual sniper sights don't. Interestingly enough though, the new legend Vantage's ultimate has a 3 to 8x scope, which would count as a sniper scope, and this one does actually have aim assist. Can Gibraltar's gun shield be stuck by an arc star? No. Gibraltar's gun shield cannot be stuck by an arc star, it instead gets deflected and falls off. Fun fact, this also works with Maggie's ultimate. Does the explosion from the explosive holds in King's Canyon actually deal damage? We'll just quickly drop into King's Canyon to test this out, and voila, no need to back off when you're using this. And those were 45 myths done and dusted. If you already knew about most of these, how about testing your knowledge of 44 things that you probably didn't know about Apex by checking out the video on the screen. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.